Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening, Baruch haba, welcome. This is our Tree of Life class, and we're studying Yesod, which is foundation. And we'll get back to our diagram over here in just a little bit. But we were out last week. My voice was gone and trying to get it back and doing much better now. But so where we were speaking that Yesod, that foundation Yesod, the Sephirah of Yesod is identified in the Tanakh, what in Christianity is called the Old Testament. In the Tanakh is identified with the Tzaddik, with the righteous one. So Yesod is identified with the Tzaddik. The book of Proverbs chapter 10 and verse 25 says that the foundation of the righteous is everlasting. We went to the Hebrew where it says, literally it says V'tzadik Yesod Olam. Literally that the righteous is the foundation of the universe. And so the foundation of the righteous, well, no, what it says, actually, literally what it says is that the righteous is the foundation. And so what do we know about Yeshua Mashiach? What do we know about Yeshua? About Jesus? What do we know about him? That he is called what? The foundation. He is the sure foundation for us. And in fact, he's speaking of himself when he talks about the wise man versus the foolish man. How the wise man built his house. He built his house upon what? He built his house upon a sure foundation. A foundation of rock. Whereas the foolish man built his house upon what? A foundation of sand. So that when the storm comes, what happens to the house that is built on the foundation of sand? It's destroyed, it's flattened, it's moved, it's removed. Because the sand cannot stand. The sand shifts with the water, with the wind, and such as that. The rock, however, is immovable. And so he is, in effect, when he's giving us this parable of the wise man and the foolish man, that he is, in effect, he's speaking concerning himself. That he is the foundation, that is the rock. The scripture speaks to a foundation stone. The stone that the builders reject. The prophet speaks to this, that there is a stone, a foundation stone, which the builders reject, and yet it becomes the most beautiful stone on the Beit HaMikdash. It becomes the most beautiful stone in the temple. And so he's speaking concerning Yeshua declares that he is this stone. In fact, he not only declares it, but he declares this before the Kohanim, before the priests in the Beit HaMikdash, in the temple, that he is the stone that the builders reject. And so the tzaddik is in fact the foundation, that the righteous one, this righteous one is the foundation, that everything is built on him. This should clarify something for you that is debated in the churches concerning a statement that Yeshua is having a conversation with the Talmidim, with the disciples, and he makes a statement. He asked them. Yeshua asked the Talmidim, "Who do you say that I am?" Or he actually begins asking, "Who do they say that I am? Who do the people say that I am?" And so the disciples, the Talmidim, answer with various questions. Some say that Some say that you are Eliyahu, that you are Elijah the prophet. Some say that you are Yochanan, and you are John the Immerser, John the Baptist, come back from the dead. Why come back from the dead? because he has had his head removed from his body by Herod. And so that some say that you are John come back from the dead. Others say that you are Mashiach, that you're the Messiah. And Yeshua then turns to them and he says, "But who do you say that I am?" And Kepha responds, Peter responds. Kepha responds with the words, "You are Hamashiach, ben Elohim Chayim." You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Yeshua says then to Kepha, he says, "Flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but the Father who is in heaven." Hurry. The Father who is in heaven. And he tells him, he says, "And you are Kepha, and upon this rock I will build the assembly." Usually translated in English Bibles, the church. But the word was not church that he used. In fact, that word did not exist. The word that he used actually is assembly. And so, in saying all of this, what this...
How do you spell Kepha?
Kepha, K-E-P-H-A. Kepha. Now, even in the let me say this, that there are those who say that Yeshua is saying that the assembly, that the body in Christianity, the church, is going to be built upon Peter, upon Kepha. They're missing the point. Who is the rock? Yeshua is the rock. He is the foundation. It is the tzaddik. Is Kepha at this point, at this time, is Kepha a tzaddik? Is Peter the righteous one? No. Will he become a tzaddik? Yes, he will become a tzaddik. After the order of Yeshua, but not without sin as Yeshua. But here he's not a tzaddik. Here he's a talmid. He's a disciple. He's a student, and he's learning about righteousness. He's learning about tzedakah. So it is not upon Kepha that the body, that the assembly is going to be built. It's going to be built upon the rock. What rock? Yesod, the foundation, of which we just read in the book of Proverbs, chapter 10 and verse 25, V'tzadik Yesod Olam, that the righteous is the foundation of the world. That Yeshua, the righteous, the tzaddik, he's the foundation of the world. And what does the scripture say concerning him? That all things were created by him, and that he holds all things together. He is literally the foundation of the universe. And so everything is by him, everything is through him. So when they say that upon this rock I will build my assembly, and they say, well, they're talking about Kepha, they're talking about Peter. Well, even in the Latin, what is Peter's name? Petros. From Petra. This is rock. This is like temple. Not Bam Bam. Pebble and Bam Bam? Yes. Sorry.
So then, like, the Catholic Church their entire argument
correct, is incorrect. The entire argument that because when he names him Kepha, when he names him Petros or Peter, literally he's calling him a little stone. He's not calling him this. You all know of the city of Petra, right? What is Petra? It is this whole city. The whole city is made out of not just a rock. Yes, it's literally carved out of the side of a rock mountain. Okay? That's this term here. This is, upon this, the assembly is built. Not upon this. We make up this. Yes?
I was going to say, further, if you keep reading further down, you know, Yeshua says to him, "Get thee behind me, Satan." So
correct.
Satan.
Correct. Curiously. So, a little bit further on in the discussion, Patrick is saying here, a little bit further on in the discussion, Yeshua actually turns around and tells Kepha, "Get behind me, Hasatan. Get behind me, Satan. Satan." So, this tells you, is he a tzaddik?
No.
At this point, in this case, no. He's the sand. This is the sand upon which a house is built, which is faulty and will fall. Any organization that is built upon a human being is faulted and is corrupt and will fall. Any organization that is built upon a human being is faulted and corrupt and will fall. So the whole thing here is that Yesod is foundation, that the tzaddik, that the tzaddik is the Yesod, is the foundation ha'olam of the universe. That this is in fact talking about Mashiach. So we spoke then that we have this tzaddik in Yeshua Mashiach. Yochanan says, 1 John chapter 2 verses 1 and 2, he says, "My children, I am writing these things to you so that you will not sin." Who is it who does not sin? Who is it who does not sin? The tzaddik. Very good, the righteous. The tzaddik is the one who does not sin. So that you will be tzaddikim, so that you will be righteous ones. "My children, I'm writing these things to you so you will not sin." However, even as with Kepha, so with us, we have this fault. In that what? Who is without sin? Yeshua asked that question even of the tzaddikim, those who were called tzaddikim of his time. Remember, they bring to him to judge, for him to judge a woman caught in the very act of adultery. And they demand his judgment. What do we do with this woman? That the Torah of Moshe demands that she be put to death by stoning. What do you say? And his response is what? "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." Were they able to? No, they were not able to. And in fact, Rav Shaul tells us what in the book of Romans 4, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. In this whole thing that is being set down by Yochanan in this treatise of 1 John, 1 Yochanan, it is all having to do with sin. That the sin is the breaking. He even defines what sin is for us here, that sin is the breaking of Torah. That sin is the breaking of the law. And so here he says, my children, I'm writing these things to you. He says in chapter 1, he says what? That he who says he is without sin is a liar and the truth is not in him. He says here, my children, I'm writing these things to you so that you will not sin. But if anyone does sin, who's he speaking to? Anyone? Everyone. Because who does not, at some point, break Torah every day? We break Torah and we don't even realize we're breaking Torah. This is why the scripture tells us that Mashiach is able to judge even between the bone and the marrow, between the soul and the spirit. The soul and the spirit are different entities, so to speak, of a human being. Can you determine when you look at another person, can you determine what is their soul and what is their spirit? No. But Mashiach can. And so he's able to judge us in this way, saying that I may do something, I may say something that I don't even realize is out of an act of arrogance or pride. And I don't think that I'm being proudful, and yet at the root of it, it is. Say what? I sinned without intention. I sinned without even knowing that I did so.
Which comes with Psalm.
Huh?
Like David said in the Psalms, forgive me for the sins I know I committed, the ones I don't know.
Exactly, which is where I was going with this. Which is where I was going with this. That David the king, in the Psalm, he says, forgive me for those sins which I commit unknowingly. Forgive me for the sins which I commit knowingly. Forgive me for the sins which I commit unknowingly. And on Yom Kippur, we say this, we repeat this. For those sins, we give him in the Al-Chitz, we give this listing of the sins that are, we rehearse them, so to speak, before God, confessing. And then we, at the very end of Al-Chitz, we say that for those sins that we know of, we have confessed them to you. We have confessed them before you. We have spoken them. Those sins that we do not know, we ask that you forgive us for these as well. Why? Because we all have sin that we don't even know we have. This is why he says, my children, I'm writing these things to you so that you will not sin. But if anyone does sin, he has an intercessor. He has an advocate, a lawyer. He has, if you go into the book of Ivri, the book of Hebrews, he speaks of that we have a Kohen Hagadol, we have a high priest who is familiar with our affliction. That this is the one, this is the whole idea of a priest, of a God, of a Kohen, the Kohanim. The whole responsibility of the priest was to be the intercessor. He was to intercede. He's the intermediary. As the scripture says, there is one God and one mediator between God and man. Who? The man, Yeshua Mashiach. The mediator. What does the mediator do? So, this husband and wife, they can't get along. And they go to a judge and they want a divorce or whatever, and before the judge will allow them to get a divorce, the judge oftentimes we'll tell them to go to mediation. What is mediation? Where they will go to a person who will listen to both sides of the story and will say, okay, well, you're right here, you're wrong here, you're right here, you're wrong here, and he mediates. And he comes up with what would be a just conclusion between the two of them, a just answer between the two of them. This is mediation. And so the man or the person who does this, who goes between the two, the husband and the wife who are quarreling, the one who goes between the two is called a mediator. So God has a quarrel with mankind, with humanity. The quarrel with humanity is what? That we have broken Torah. This is his quarrel, that we have broken covenant with him. And so there's this dispute now that is going on between humanity and God. Yeshua HaMashiach comes in and he gets in the middle of it. That is, he listens to both sides. He hears the argument of both sides and he brings it to a just conclusion for both sides so that we are able to be acceptable before God. So the whole place, the whole position of the Kohen Hagadol, of the high priest, is to be this, the intercessor, the mediator, the go-between. In that what? That the high priest would listen to man and take the thoughts, take the prayers, the heart of humanity, the heart of the man before God, and take the word of God to the man. And so he's interceding. The Kohen Hagadol was an intercessor. This was what Moshe did. This is what Aharon, what Aaron did. What does Moshe do? He takes the word of God to the people. The people respond and he takes their answer back to God. And he's going back and forth between. At Har Sinai, at Mount Sinai, what happens? Moshe's up there. He's up there for 40 days. The people think that he's gone too long. They think that something's happened to him. And so what? They bring a complaint to Aharon that we don't know. This guy's brought us out here into the wilderness. Perhaps probably he's just, he wants to run away with our goal. We don't know what's happened to him. Maybe God's killed him. We don't know what's happened to him. So what? And so they said, make us a God that we can follow, that we can see with our eyes, that we can feel and touch. And so Aharon makes the golden calf, and Aharon and Joshua come down the mountain, and they see the children of Israel dancing before the golden calf. God is very wroth with them, very angry with them, and what's going to happen? God says, I'm going to destroy all of them, and from you, Moshe, I will raise up a new people. And Moshe says what? No. So here we find Moshe being the intercessor, the mediator. And he goes to God and he pleads on their behalf. In this, he is acting as Mashiach, and the rabbis, the Chasal, the sages speak to this, that Moshe is acting, he is at that moment being Mashiach to the people. He's being the Messiah for the people, that he's acting as the intercessor. And so this is the position of Yeshua. Now we can intercede on behalf of one another. We can pray for one another. But we do not have the weight, we do not have the pull of Mashiach, of Yeshua Mashiach. We do not have the pull. We do not have the weight. It would be as though, Joey did something wrong. I won't put that on Joey. It would be as though I did something wrong. And they throw me in jail. And so I have to go and appear before the judge in the courthouse. And Joe comes down to testify on my behalf. To say to the judge, Your Honor, I've known him all my life. And he's a really good man, and he may have done this one thing, but this is out of character for him and all of these kinds of things. So he becomes a character witness on my behalf, correct? I would hope that Joey would do this for me. Thank you, Josh, my own son. My goodness. So, but what if the Attorney General, someone of high standing like that, comes into the courthouse and the Attorney General speaks on my behalf? What if the Attorney General comes in and says, Your Honor, we're dropping the charges against this one?
It's more up to listen.
Huh?
He's more up to listen.
Not only is he more apt to listen, but what? If the Attorney General himself is dropping the charges,
He won't.
there are no charges. This is the position of Yeshua Mashiach. This is the position of the Messiah, that He is our advocate, that He is our attorney, that He has weight, that His word has weight, so that when He speaks to the judge listens to Him and takes not only as advisement, but takes the word, and then to put even more weight on the scale, that Mashiach, that the Messiah, that Yeshua is Ben Elohim, that He's the Son of God, that He's the Son of the Judge. This gives even much more bearing to it. That I would listen to the testimony of your friend as a judge, that I would listen to the testimony of your friend, okay. And I would give it some credence. That I would listen to the testimony of an officer of the court, even more so, because he's an officer of the court. If that officer of the court happens to be my son, even more so would I give weight and credence to the testimony. You see how this is working? And so this is what Yochanan is saying here. But if anyone does sin, we have an intercessor with the Father, the Tzaddik, Mashiach Yeshua. Why? And now here's why. Why does the judge give credence, give weight to the testimony of this attorney? Because he is the atonement for our sin. And not only for our sin, but for the sin of the whole world. Because he is the payment. He took to himself the punishment. He took the sin to himself. He took the crime to himself. Though he himself was not a criminal, he took the crime to himself. He confessed to it as though he is the criminal. And then the punishment that is due the criminal is placed upon him. This is what is being spoken to here. Even as the sin of the nation is conferred upon the lamb, upon the goat on Yom Kippur, and the goat is led outside of the city, outside of the camp, and is thrown over the cliff and killed, put to death. So Yeshua Mashiach is our atonement, that he who knew no sin became sin for us, so that we might be called Chatzadakim, so that we might be called Hatzedakah, the righteousness, Hatzedakah Elohim, the righteousness of God. So the whole reason why this advocate, the whole reason why this one, this righteous one, is able to stand for us, and his testimony not only is given credence, is given weight, but that the judge actually follows what this testimony is, what this advocate, what this attorney says for us, is because he has actually paid the price himself. The price is paid. And there's nothing other that is required or demanded by Torah. But only that, what? The death sentence be cast upon the guilty one. He takes the guilt upon himself, he takes the death upon himself, he pays the price. Thus the guilty is allowed to go free. And so he is the atonement for our sin, not only for our sin, but for the whole world. It is in this case that we are to take who and what he is upon ourselves. So the book of Philippians chapter 2 verses 5 through 8. Have this attitude in yourself which is in Mashiach Yeshua. This is the attitude. The attitude of giving himself. You see, this is the tzaddik. And this is what the rabbis, what the sages speak to concerning the tzaddik, is that the tzaddik is willing to give his life for the nation. He's willing to sacrifice himself. And you remember that this is exactly what Ananiah, what the Kohen Hagadol, what the high priest Ananias, what he says concerning Yeshua at the trial. That it would be necessary for one to die for the sake of the nation. Rather, one die than the whole nation die. Excuse me, not Ananiah, but Caiaphas says concerning Yeshua. That it would be better for one to die. And he's speaking this, saying that this guy's going around telling everybody he's the king, we're going to have this big revolution, Rome's going to come down, crush us all, kill us all, take us all, make us all slaves and all these kind of things, and whatever freedom we have, we're going to lose all this. Better that he should die than all of the nation should die. But the scripture says that he's speaking this prophetically, saying that he did not understand that he was speaking prophetically, because this is exactly what the Chassid, this is exactly what the sages say, that a true tzaddik will sacrifice himself, will give his own life for the sake of the nation. And this is exactly what Yeshua Mashiach does. He gives himself for the sake of the nation. That we should be willing, that we are to be willing to give ourselves for other people. That Yeshua gives himself to others. We're going to get into this when we get into Chod. Chod is over on this side here. Didn't get to this. Well, Malchut Yesod the top Chod. You remember, you'll recall that I have told you that Chod is the place where, it's the realm of the prophet, it's the place where prayers get answered. It is the place of the miracles. This is the place where God hears and answers in miraculous ways. Do you believe? Do you understand? Do you think that Yeshua Mashiach was in the realm of the prophets? Do you believe that he was in the Sephirah of Chod? What do you think? Do you think that Yeshua Mashiach was in the Sephirah of Chod? Was he in the realm of the prophets?
Yes.
Does he get his prayers answered?
Yes.
Do miraculous things happen through him and around him? Yes. Very miraculous things. But you must take note of this. How often does Yeshua ask for a miracle concerning himself? How often does Yeshua perform a miracle for himself? Never. Not one time. He never asked for a miracle for himself. In fact, is this not one of the temptations when he comes out of the wilderness? When he comes out of the Hamidbar, out of the wilderness, and Hasatan comes to tempt him. And the very first thing, because Yeshua has not eaten anything in 40 days, he has not had anything to drink in 40 days. And so the scripture tells us that he's hungry. You would be hungry not eating in 40 days, no? He's hungry. And so this is the first thing that Satan uses as a temptation, as the test against HaMashiach. He tells him what? You're very hungry. You've done a very spiritual, a very noble, a very holy thing. So you need to relax, enjoy yourself, and why don't you, these rocks, you're capable, you're the creator. Why don't you take some of these rocks and turn them into bread and eat and satisfy your hunger? Does Yeshua follow suit? Does he do this? No. He rejects the advice of Hasatan, the suggestion of Hasatan, and answers him what? Man shall not live by bread alone, but from every word that comes from the mouth of God. Saying what? Saying what? Yeshua performed no miracles for himself. This is the realm of Hod. The prophets do not ask for miracles for themselves. They ask for miracles for others. Why? This is the whole point. This is where Yesod is taking us into Netzach, is to learn about self-sacrifice, and it is about giving ourselves, giving up ourselves for others, giving up our needs, our wants, our possessions, our desire, all of these things, to give them up for others. Why? Because it's not about me. I am the servant. It's about God and it's about others. This is what Netzach is all about, and this is where Yesod is taking us. So the fact that Yeshua Mashiach performed no miracles on behalf of himself, but he only performed miracles on behalf of others, this is the realm of the tzaddik. That the tzaddik does not do things for himself for his own benefit. This is why, if you remember, Elisha, the prophet Elisha, you remember the story of when the man with Sa'ah, with leprosy, Naaman, the Syrian general, comes down with leprosy, comes out down with Sa'ah. And the maid, the young Jewish girl, tells him that there's a Navi, there's a prophet who lives in Israel, who is able to perform miracles, and surely that this Navi, this prophet, would be able to remove the tzara, the curse, this disease from Naaman, if he'll just go see him. And so Naaman goes and he sees Elisha. And Elisha tells him that he needs to go and make mikvah. He needs to go immerse himself 7 times in Yarden, in the river Jordan. And Naaman, he looks at the river Jordan. It's a small little muddy creek. And he says, this thing is dirty, it's muddy. He says, why should I bathe here? Why should I immerse myself in that? We have beautiful, clear, crystal clear blue rivers in Syria, in Assyria. Why should I do this here? I can go home and do this. And his servant says to him, Adon, Lord, Rabbi, not Rabbi, but Adon, Lord, Master. If he had required you to do some difficult thing, if he had required some great sum of money from you or something like that, you would have done it. You would have paid it without a care, with ease. And it would have been nothing to you to remove this curse, to remove this disease from you, this sickness from you. And here he asks you such a small thing, only that you acknowledge this river, that you acknowledge this God by immersing yourself 7 times in this river. Though it is a small river and it's a muddy river. But you give obedience to Hashem and you do this thing, that you would be cured of your disease. Naaman listens to the word of his Eved, of his servant. And he goes down to the Yarden. He goes down to the Jordan River. And there he makes the mikvah. He immerses himself 7 times in the river. And on the 7th time, he comes up and he is cured. The curse is removed from him. And the scripture says that he has the skin, the flesh of a newborn baby. He goes back to Elisha. And he offers to pay Elisha for this cure, for the removal of the curse, for the healing, for the miracle. He offers him gold and silver. He offers him rich clothing. Whatever he wants. And you remember what Elisha tells him? Elisha tells him what? He rejects it. He says, no. I did nothing. The miracle's not from me. I did nothing. Who performs the miracle? Who made the miracle? Who did it? Come on, who did it? God did it. So answer me. Pay attention, please. Who did the miracle? Who performed the miracle? God did the miracle. So would it be just for Elisha to take payment for something that God had done? No. It would be as though he's saying, I did it. I did nothing. Elisha says, I did nothing. God did this. Return to your home in peace. But remember that Elisha has an Eved, a servant as well. And Naaman goes down the road, and Eved, the Eved of Elisha, the servant of Elisha, he says, I can use some of that. It's a foolish thing that my master has done, not taking payment from this Assyrian. I want some of that. I'd like to have a fancy car. I'd like to have a nice house like that. I'd like to have this. I'd like to have... You see where that comes from? What is the 10th commandment? You shall not covet. You shall not covet. We look around at the things that our friends and our neighbors, our family members, other people have, and we want these things for ourselves. We want to take these things upon ourselves. The true tzaddik, the true righteous man of God, does not take payment for acts that are not his own, for acts that come from God. So when you see these people on TV and they're performing miracles and then they're asking for offerings and this and that so that you can receive your miracle, understand how contrary this is to the Word of God. Because the true tzaddik does not take payment for something he did not do. Even if you offer offer it to him free will, by your own decision, by your own conclusion, as Naaman was going to do here with Elisha. That you do not take for yourself offering. That you do not take a gift for yourself for an action of which you had nothing to do. No part of a miracle comes from you or from me. It is all from God. Therefore what? The glory goes completely to Him. This is the realm of Hod. That the true tzaddik asks nothing for himself. Because he recognizes, and it is so ingrained in him, within and without, that it is not about me. I am not here for me. I am here for the nation. I am here for the people. It is a life. The life of a true tzaddik is a life of self-sacrifice. It is a life of giving up my rights, my wants, my wishes, my desires for the sake of the kingdom. Notice what? Netzach, Yesod, Malchut, the kingdom. Look, the connection. How am I getting there? The whole thing of Yesod is building a foundation for Malchut, building a foundation for the kingdom. It is the tzaddik that is the foundation. Yeshua is our example. That he is the foundation for Malchut. He is the foundation for the kingdom. By what means is he the foundation? By means of his self-sacrifice, by means of his willingness to set everything of himself aside for the sake of the people. That he might be a true, a good intercessor, mediator. That he may be a good high priest. Thus he forsakes. Yeshua put it to us this way. We're closing with this. Yeshua put it to us this way. Forsaking all. This is a difficult thing for us to do. Forsaking all. He said, take up your cross. What? Your instrument of self-sacrifice. And follow me. What? To be a true follower of Yeshua Mashiach, I need to put down my own self-interest. I need to put down my own ego. I need to put down my own flesh, my own desire, my own selfishness, even my own physical instinct. I need to put down these things. To sacrifice them all for the sake of others. This is the life of Yeshua. And this is what he has done for us. We say that we are followers of him. Are we followers of him?
No.
This is not an easy thing for us to do. There's an old song that says it is not an easy road that we're traveling together. Yeshua himself says concerning this road that what? It would be difficult, that it would be narrow, that it would be bumpy, that it would be rough. And for this reason, many choose not to take it. Narrow is the gate and narrow is the way that leads to salvation. And few there are that walk that way, but what? Wide and easy is the way that leads to destruction, and many are there that take that way. We're not called to live the easy life in this life, or we're not called to live in a life of comfort, of ease, and these kinds of things. That life for us comes in Olam Haba, in the world to come, in the life to come. This world, for the most part, by its very nature, is going to be uncomfortable for us. That we are called to be sacrificial, that we're called to sacrifice ourselves. This is what it means to take up your cross. To forsake everything, to forsake all. What does this mean? Put it all behind you. Let me ask you a question, we're close. Let me ask you a question, that's twice. Let me ask you a question. Yeshua, he's walking the path to the cross. He's walking the path to his execution. He's carrying the beam on his own shoulder. He's carrying the instrument of his execution on his shoulder. Do you suppose that as he's walking down that road, down that street, he's passing the fine houses of the upper echelons of the citizens of Jerusalem, of Jerusalem? Do you suppose that as he's passing these nice homes, he's saying, that would be a nice palace to live in? Kaifa has himself a pretty swell place here. Do you suppose that he's saying, you know, that the governor's mansion, that's a pretty cool place. You know, that'd be a nice place to live. Look at that home, and you know, because basically where he's going from the temple area and all of that, that was kind of like the wealthier part of town. And he's passing by all of these nicer homes and gardens and everything like that. And they have the nice front lawn, all manicured, the swimming pool in the back, and all these trees and everything. And do you suppose that Yeshua, on his way to his execution, on the way to his sacrifice, that he's looking at that place and saying, I'd like to have a place like that? You know, he passes by, there's a nice Cadillac Chariot on the side of the road, parked there, and, you know, it's got his doorman in there, and he's there passing. I'd like to have a vehicle like that. That'd be a nice thing to drive around in. Or do you suppose that, what was on his mind at this point? What was it? What was in his heart? What was on his mind? What was in his heart? The salvation of his people. What is on his mind? The sacrifice that is going to be required of him. That's all he's thinking about. That's all that's in his heart. That's all that's on his mind. So it should be with us. We're his followers. This is what he means when he says, take up your cross and follow me. I'm not to be worrying about this home or that home. Whether I'm living big or whether I'm living small. That doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with life in its reality. Whether I'm driving this car or that car. Whether I have this much money in the bank or that much money in the bank or no money in the bank. What have you. This is why Yeshua tells the Talmidim, don't worry about those things. If God is powerful enough to clothe the flowers more beautifully than Shlomo, if God feeds every bird that flies in the air, the birds, they don't work, they don't harvest, they don't plant, they don't harvest, and yet every one of them is fed, how much more is He going to care? How much more is He going to supply for you? Don't worry about those kinds of things. That's not the point. The point is not your house or your car or money in the bank or these kinds of things. The point is this: how am I helping others? This is what Yesod is all about, to get us into Netzach, so that we can learn that it's about others and the sacrifice of myself, to give myself over, to give up myself for the sake of others, for the sake of the people. This is what Yeshua is teaching us. This is what our life is all about. When you look at those first followers of Yeshua in that first century, when you look at those first followers of Kim, this is what they were busy doing. They were laying down their life for the others. They were laying down their life. What did he do? He laid down his life for the sheep. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. This is what it is all about. And this is why I'm not to be worried. What does Yeshua say concerning himself? When the one says, I would follow you. And Yeshua says to him, you understand that Ben Adam, that the Son of Man, that the birds have their nest in the trees, that the fox has their hole in the ground, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Saying what? If where you live is not important. What house you're living in, that's not what's important. What car you're driving, that's not what's important. How many credit cards you have, whether you have, how much money you have in the bank. These things are not important in comparison to Olam Chava, the world to come. What is important is, what am I doing to help others achieve the goal of Olam Chava? What am I doing to do tikkun ha'olam? What am I doing to bring reparation to the world? How do I bring reparation to the world? I sacrifice myself for the sake of others, to bring them, to lift them up. I put myself down in order to lift up another person, in order to lift up someone else. I sacrifice myself so that another person might find life. All of this is Yesod going into Netzach. And this is exactly what the Brit is all about. This is what circumcision is describing. Circumcision is a physical demonstration of self-sacrifice for the sake of procreation, of bringing forth life. The brit, the cutting of the foreskin, and this is Yesod. We're going to get into this deeply next week. This is Yesod. Yesod, the cutting of the foreskin of the male organ. The sacrificing of what is not necessary to my life in order to bring about new life, in order to bring about life. The whole thing of circumcision is self-sacrifice. Not just doing away with what is wrong, what is sin, what is wickedness, but even doing away, cutting away that which is not necessary. Those things which slow us down. The book of Hebrews, chapter 12. He says, therefore, since we have such a great cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also get rid of every weight and entangling sin. Saying what? Every weight is not sin. The weight is whatever in my life slows me down in my race. The weight is anything excessive, anything of excess, anything unnecessary in my life that is hindering me from doing what I am given to do. In the name of Yeshua, to do for God and to do for others. This is to which he is speaking. This is what circumcision is about. Cutting away the unnecessary. Cutting away the excess. So that I might run with patience the race that is set before me. When I'm worrying about a house, when I'm worrying about a car, when I'm worrying about finances, when I'm worrying about these things, a new TV, this and that, all of the different things, the things of this life, the attractions of this life, when I'm worrying about all of these things, do I run with patience this race that God has set before me? Or am I impatient? I become impatient. This is what the natural instinct does to me. I become impatient. And I cannot run with patience the race. So do what? Focusing on Yeshua, the initiator and the perfecter of emunah, of faith, for the joy set before him. Look at what he says. What does he, again, the example that is given, what that he endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God. Doing what? How did he run with patience? He sacrificed himself. Self-sacrifice. This is the key. Self-sacrifice is the key. You want to be a follower of Yeshua Mashiach? It requires self-sacrifice. It requires the putting aside of myself and taking up the cause of others. This is the truth of following Yeshua HaMashiach. Why? This is the way of the tzaddik. The tzaddik sacrifices himself for the people. With that we say, Shalom, Brachot, Le'layla Tov.